I've got to be honest with you. Every time we think we've seen it all at Daytona, NASCAR finds a way to stir the pot again. And right now, the garage is buzzing, fans are arguing, and social media is absolutely on fire over something that might sound small at first, but could seriously change the way the biggest race of the year feels. This isn't about a wreck. It's not about a last lap pass. It's not even about a championship fight. It's about a rule. A single rule. And it's already dividing drivers, teams, and die-hard fans like us. Because when you start messing with Daytona qualifying, you're messing with tradition. You're messing with pride. And you're messing with the fine line between creativity and fairness in this sport. And trust me, this one has people picking sides. So before we break it all down, do me a quick favor. If you love NASCAR and you actually care about the details that shape these races, hit that like button, subscribe to NASCAR Insider News. We're a new channel trying to hit our first 100 subscribers. And if you're a real fan who lives for Daytona week like I do, you're in the right place. All right, here's what's going on. NASCAR just dropped a brand new rule for the 2026 Daytona 500, and it directly targets something that's been quietly happening during single-car qualifying runs. Drivers are no longer allowed to use their hands to manipulate airflow inside the cockpit. That means no pressing against the window net, no subtle hand positioning tricks, no trying to block air from entering the car to reduce drag. NASCAR officials made it clear. They want qualifying lap times to reflect the car's setup and the driver's skill, not little aerodynamic tricks happening inside the cockpit. And let's be real, this didn't come out of nowhere. Over the last couple seasons, a few drivers got creative. And the most talked about example happened during the 2024 season at Atlanta Motor Speedway, involving Joey Logano. Logano showed up to qualifying wearing a modified glove, what people called a webbed glove. It had extra material between the thumb and fingers, basically increasing the surface area. And during his run, he placed his hand up near the window net, trying to block more airflow from entering the cockpit. More blocked airflow means less drag. Less drag means more speed. And at tracks like Atlanta and Daytona, we're talking about thousandths of a second making the difference. But NASCAR didn't see it as clever innovation. They saw it as a violation. Logano was disqualified from his qualifying position. He was fined $10,000. And he was forced to start from the very back of the field after officials ruled that the glove had been modified in a way that violated both safety and competition rules. That moment stuck with a lot of people. Some thought it was genius gamesmanship. Others thought it crossed the line. Now NASCAR is basically saying, we're not even going to let this be a gray area anymore. If your hand is affecting airflow during a single-car run, it's banned. And this is where the divide really starts. Some drivers are saying this is necessary. That Daytona qualifying should be about raw speed, clean air, setup, and the driver hitting their marks perfectly. No gimmicks, no clever cockpit tricks. But other drivers? They think the impact of hand positioning was minimal. They feel like this is NASCAR blowing a tiny issue way out of proportion. Another layer of complexity in a sport that already has a rule book thicker than most novels. And fans? Oh, we're split too. Some fans love it. They see this as NASCAR reinforcing fairness, making it all about the machine and the talent behind the wheel. But critics are saying this is another example of the sanctioning body overthinking things, making a mountain out of a molehill. They argue this tiny detail won't meaningfully change qualifying results, but it will add more stress to teams already walking on eggshells when it comes to inspection and penalties. And just when you think that's the only change? Nope, there's more. NASCAR has also tightened the qualifying process for non-chartered or open cars in the Daytona 500. Under the new format, the two fastest open cars in the single-car time trials automatically lock themselves into the race. That means those two cars are guaranteed a starting spot in the Great American Race, and they do not race their way in during the dual qualifying events. For the rest of the open teams who aren't in the top two, they still have a shot. There will be one open transfer spot available in each dual race, and the open exemption provisional remains in place. That's the provision that can guarantee a spot for a high-profile driver like Jimmy Johnson for promotional reasons. But if a driver accepts that provisional, they forfeit points and prize money. So it's not just a free ride, there's a trade-off. Qualifying at Daytona is never simple. Those single-car timed runs set the front row and determine the lineup for the duels. And for open teams without charters, every fraction of a second is everything. Careers can hinge on those laps. Now, with the two fastest open cars automatically locked in, some fans feel like it removes incentive for those teams to race aggressively in the duels. One fan flat out said, "Dumb rule that didn't need to be put into place." So now the top two fastest open cars literally have no reason to race on Thursday. And no, it doesn't matter where you start at Daytona. And I get that argument. Daytona is chaotic. Starting position doesn't guarantee survival. So if you're already locked in, why risk tearing up your car in a duel? But on the flip side, others see it as a cleaner, fairer system. Another fan wrote, "This feels like a positive tweak. One open spot for one open car per duel. Seems fair to me." And honestly, I can see both sides. On one hand, Daytona has always been about daring moves, strategy, and sometimes bending the rulebook just enough without breaking it. That's part of racing history. On the other hand, you don't want qualifying turning into a science experiment inside the cockpit. There has to be a line. What makes this so fascinating is that we're talking about the Daytona 500, the Great American Race, the biggest stage NASCAR has. Every tweak feels amplified. Every rule feels personal. And all this debate, all this arguing, it's about to be tested this weekend. Because when the green flag drops at Daytona, none of the talk matters anymore. It's about execution. It's about survival. It's about who shows up when it counts. But make no mistake, these rule changes could absolutely shape how we get to that starting grid. And whether you think NASCAR is protecting fairness or just micromanaging the sport, this moment says something bigger. It shows how tight the margins are in modern NASCAR. It shows how creative teams are willing to get. And it shows how passionate this fan base still is about every little detail of the sport. And that's why we love it. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think banning hand manipulation is the right move? Or is this NASCAR overthinking it again? And what about the open qualifying changes? Fair tweak or unnecessary complication? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it like real fans. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button. And if you want honest, fan-to-fan NASCAR conversations like this every week, subscribe to NASCAR Insider News. We're a brand new channel pushing toward our first 100 subscribers. And if you live for Daytona, for the duels, for the drama like I do, you belong here with us. The Great American Race is here. Let's see who proves the rulebook right.